Good afternoon and welcome to the UCEA Executive Committee Interview Podcast. This is Daniel Moraguez, Graduate Research Assistant at UCEA and doctoral student at the University of Virginia. I am here today to interview Dr. Jack Grace Liang as part of her candidacy for the UCEA Executive Committee. Today we will be hearing from Dr. Liang, Assistant Professor in Educational Leadership at Kansas State University. Her research interests include instructional leadership, community engagement, leadership capacity building, the institutional equity for women and racial minorities, and pedagogy or andragogy for social justice. Welcome, Dr. Liang.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, we are so happy to have you, so you're very welcome, and we're going to begin with the first question. Please tell us about your background and your scholarship as it relates to leadership preparation and practice.
Okay, so it is clear to us the mission of UCEA really to leadership practice, research, and policy. So my journey actually started back in China. That's where I was born. So of course, it's not surprising my time or my career studying K-12 classrooms. And then when I actually decided to pursue a graduate degree, I decided to come to United States. So I started my transnational journey to here. And then I was fortunate to have the opportunity to work with schools in West Virginia. That's where I got my master from Marshall University. And then I went on to pursue a doctorate degree in education leadership and administration at the University of Georgia. After that, I also was fortunate to have opportunity to teach in Georgia and Florida and then Kansas. I was hired in 2015 by Kansas State University in the Department of Education and Leadership. So as a faculty here, I was very fortunate, had an opportunity to actually work on several entities on campus. One of them is Kansas Educational Leadership Institute. So that is entity where we provide support, particularly induction and mentoring to all our new administrators being at a building level and a district level. So I had quite involvement with that entity, and that actually allowed me to forge collaborations and also networks. And also an opportunity to actually introduce or disseminate research to kind of influence what's going on in the field, but most importantly, have building that reciprocal relationship with a lot of current school administrators, and also because our mentor are some of them, majority of them actually are retired superintendents. So that's also given me a way to build a relationship and also be part of that political landscape as well. In terms of my scholarship, to kind of summarize, my two main streams of my scholarship really focus on, and as Daniel already introduced in the beginning, the minoritized group in leadership, but another one is really that leadership capacity building. So that's not surprising why I'm involved with CULI, the Kansas Educational Leadership Institute. So another, in terms of like my teaching, a lot of our students are actually almost like higher level leaders in the state. So I was fortunate to work as their instructor or even as their doctoral advisors. And to give you an example, one of the recent kind of work I have done is with two of the students who actually work for the Kansas Department of Education. And if you not familiar what's going on in Kansas right now, or you have some, is Kansas currently is going through a whole statewide redesign process. And so two of my students, they actually are the major player from the Department of Education being in charge in this initiative. So, and one of the collaborative product coming out of the relationship I have with them is using their experience and kind of connecting to what they have been engaged with research. And we produced a piece with Journal of Cases in Educational Leadership. So those are some of the examples in terms of how my work kind of connecting to UCEA's mission.
Great, thank you. So the second question, you have served for several years as a plenary session representative. Tell us about your engagement in UCEA's governance.
Okay, so and I think I was fortunate to give the opportunity to serve as a plenum shortly after I arrived at Kansas State University. And plenum for me is a place not only for us as a member institution to kind of exert our shared governance roles, but also I think it's very important for me as a plenum rep to bring back what we learned from the plenum sessions and to kind of build up that bridging or a reciprocal relationship. So that's what I do is I bring what I learned from the session and to our institution. And another way I think in my role as a planner is have a dialogue with my department chair and also my dean to see how as an institution and as a department can we be part of some of the initiative going on with UCEA. And another thing I think for our serving communities, I'm talking about like, our students who are actually the practitioners. And I think broadly, they need to feel being a part of the organization of UCEA, but also feeling they belong to here. And they also, I think it's important for them to feel we recognize their work. So I have been working with my colleagues and my chair to nominate our practitioners to receiving this award, and we have been successfully able to do that. So I think that's also very important. And another thing, I think in my role of planner, I also try every way to see if we can bring what UCEA can offer to other professional identities. So I was able to, represent our department and my college to sit on so-called a committee or panel, which is guiding, working with Kansas Association of School Board and the Kansas Association of Superintendents to kind of guiding their data collection process so we can able to better serve our leaders in the field. So that hasn't been, I think, in the planning role allows me to do all these kind of things.
Okay. And in what other ways have you been engaged in UCEA?
So I have to admit, as an assistant professor in my 5th year in this role, relatively or compared to other more senior scholars and faculty, my time is relatively short. But I came to UCEA when I was still back then as a graduate student. So my other involvement with UCEA, of course, part of it is being reviewer for the conference and as section chair for the conference. But also I was very fortunate or grateful for the opportunity. I actually served as the faculty advisor for graduate research associates for the EESA, that research project sponsored by Wallace Foundation, which is looking at ESSA policy. So I was very grateful for the opportunity to actually work with students on a UCEA project. And another involvement I have with UCEA, I'm also serve on the editorial board of the UCEA review. And let me say this, I really appreciate over the years, people at UCEA actually, despite their busy schedule, they actually willing to listen when I kind of reach out to say I would like to be part of that. Here's my thinking. So we're out of their really busy schedule. I mean, because they're well seasoned scholars. Their names, I read their works even when I was back in graduate school, even until now. So I think that actually allows me to have some opportunity to become more involved with UCEA.
Okay. And I would like to also add that you were once a Clark Scholar as well.
Yes.
Okay, now our next question is, discuss with us your scholarship, your research projects, your teaching, and or service that can inform the work of UCEA, particularly the work of the executive committee?
Okay. So I think I would like to think my transnational experience and also my scholarship focus on the minoritized groups and capacity building can be helpful for UCEA executive committee. So to give you some examples, so when I say my transnational experience, not just like the physical transnational experience, but also in terms of the scholarship I engage in. So leadership, education leadership is not just a phenomenon happening in the United States. And I consider UCEA is a leading entity globally. So a recent work I done with my colleagues back in China is actually looking at how teacher leadership is understood, and also how this particular phenomenon under the policy so-called backbone teacher manifest in China, because that was a policy had a lot of roots emulating or try learning, applying what the teacher leadership conceptualization in the U.S. and in the Western field. So and another thing is I think very relevant in the sense is the COVID-19 situation really prompts some of more the importance of as education leaders recognize the importance of the diversity, but also the so-called artificial notion of a border right across nations. Something happened in the other half of the sphere is actually not just stopped at the border of the United States. And so to give you an example, I was being reached by some school administrators because they have families who has ethnicity like Chinese or South Korean, and they struggle. How can they help the parents and even students navigating current political terrain when the anti-Asian or anti-Chinese racism is very open and hurtful and damaging in multiple rounds? So I do believe UCEA as a leading organization is where our practitioners and even our policymaker to look up to seeking advice. So I would like to think my experience and my scholarship can help that. And another thing I think, because my scholarship focus on minoritized group, my work has involves focusing on women, Asian Americans, and also one of the National Science Foundation grant I was a PI is focused on veterans. And the most recent National Science grant my team received, I'm the lead PI, is actually looking at women as well, and it's across 3 institutions. So I think my ability to kind of work interdisciplinarily and also engage wide stakeholders from different sectors can be helpful. I would like to think that way. And another thing is, I think when we think about influence policy, it can be done through surveys and teaching. I tend to think all 3 are in preparation as well. Just as I kind of previously mentioned, my work with my students in terms of Kansas redesign process, that's a place they not only, it's an example of how preparation and research and practice can actually very nicely merge together in a way which will be helpful for the field, but also aligned with UCEA mission. So I think that's pretty much what I would like to share.
Well, thank you. Those were great points, and your work is critical. So we're going to go to the last question. Share the reasons why you have chosen to run for the executive committee and your vision for the future of UCEA.
Okay, so why I have chosen to run? This may sound cliche, but I really just truly want to give it back. So I still remember very vividly when I came to UCEA as a graduate student, and I was introduced to, those scholars, and I was giggling, because I was like, oh my, this is so unreal, because people, you read their work and then they stood right in front of you. And over the years, and I, like I already kind of shared with you all, it's the people of UCEA, the people willing to stop, to be sincere, curious about what would you like to study, and then they remember your names even after they only met you once. I think that's the huge difference, because I really finding UCEA is an organization that has given me a sense of belonging, and a sense of a mission, but most importantly, a sense that I can contribute something in some way. And so I have been, when I was a graduate student, I'm pretty much is the receiving end of all this. So when I became a faculty, I'm in a position to be able to give more. And I think I would like to think my experience and my scholarship allows me to give even more to the organization, because I really think UCEA is an organization um, that is not is a, beyond just leading, but inspire, and also it expands and breaks the boundaries. I'm talking about scholarly, geographically, and even politically. And the most importantly, I think UCA is a place connects and nurture future and current leaders, scholars, and policymakers. And so I really want to be part of that and use what I can bring to the table to contribute to that cause. So that is why I have chosen to run.
Well, we thank you so much for your time and your very thoughtful responses. We do wish you the best of luck, Dr. Liang. This interview will be made available to UCEA institutions and the plenum representatives prior to the UCEA annual convention. Thank you all, and goodbye.
Thank you, Dan.